we reach to the point that we need to practice to understand more the MVC and the beans. If you go to this highlighted link, you will get a PDF that has 4 exercises, and I will explain this number 3 exercise, which is so similar to the code that we explained earlier in the previous tutorials, where in that tutorial we did not maybe talk a lot about the MVC and how the MVC is implemented. I showed you the components, but I did not mention the name tags for each component. The MVC, the model view controller, we have a part for the model, and if you remember, we had 2 things. We have the interface, and we have the code that implement this interface. And the model here play 2 roles, which is not the case all the time, because it stores the information and helps the servlet fetch and get the information from that object. Usually the model part is used to get the information from the database, but in our scenario here it happens that we have the information on the same model. And so this is the model that we use to get the information, and the servlet plays the controller, because it gets the information and it get them from the database, and also process them and then send them to the view parts, which is the JSP component. In the JSP, the only thing it does is receive this information and displays them in a specific format. So given your understanding now of the MVC and this example, let us go through this exercise, which is exercise number 3. It says that make an application where the user can enter a US state name and get the post office abbreviation. For example, if Colorado, you get CO. Start with a form where the user can enter a state name and then send the data to a servlet that looks up the corresponding abbreviation. And so far, while you are reading this information, reading this example, when it says that where the user can enter a US state, so you need an HTML page that has a form, or you can have it as a JSP form as well. And after that, the user will enter, so you will have a button, and you will have also a text field on this form. Then send the data to a servlet that looks up the corresponding abbreviation. So you send this in the form action. You specify it to be into your servlet that will handle or get the information and get them from the storage. Also, it's saying here, don't forget to handle bad data. So don't just assume that people will submit the right data. Maybe one of the scenarios is an empty, if somebody did not insert anything and hit just the button. So you need to handle that on the servlets and the server side. You're not gonna use you can use JavaScript before you submit the form, but for this exercise, do the checking for empty data on the servlet side. The servlet would then create a state pair bean, and if the data is good, send the bean to a results page to display it. If the data is bad, send the user to an error page. And here is asking you to handle 2 types of errors. So one of them is missing data, and one for unknown but not missing state names. So this code is been implemented. So we're gonna play with it, and let's use the HTML version. And if we hit here, let's specify Colorado, for example, and hit show. Here it says that the abbreviation for Colorado is CO. So this is the normal case and scenario. Let's choose something else. Let's say North Carolina. Also, this is also as a normal case. But if we put, for example, Charlotte, It says unknown, Charlotte is not recognized, so no abbreviation found. So this is one of the error scenarios, because we have two error scenarios that you submitted, like for example a city name or a country name for Italy or Spain or whatever. And there is a third error, the second error type, which is when you submit an empty. It says you didn't enter a state, go away and stop bothering us. All right, so what we need here, we need a form, we need a servlet, and if also you notice they did not mention database, then you can have a model that stores also all of these abbreviation and the state name in the same model. The same thing we had here in our example when we defined the customer symbol map. Here we had customer ID and name and balance. In the state abbreviation, you will have only the state name and the abbreviation. So you can use the same code. And also, instead of having like a customer, you'll have state and find state. And this will return a state bean. In the state bean, it has the name and it has the abbreviation. Instead of showing balance, you will have show abbreviation. You follow the same steps. You get the name. Instead of customer ID, you will have state name. And you will also look up this state name if it exists. If it exists, it will return a bean that has two values, two variables, state name and a state. Maybe you will find you will add more information if you like, but all you need is state name and state abbreviation. Requested attribute here, state and state bean. Also for the address, as you remember, we had 3 states. If it's null, for the null you have to check 2 things. Because we said there are 2 types of errors, even if it's empty, or if it's maybe you don't have in that case you don't have to check to request the state information from the model. You can check over here in the servlet. For example, here when you requested get parameter, which is the state name, you check if it's empty or not. If it's empty, you will specify that the address will be, for example, WebEnv results unknown or bad state name. If it's known, it will go to normal state abbreviation. If it's not exist, maybe unknown state. If it's like, for example, as we said with Charlotte. So once you specify the address, now you can use the dispatcher that will forward this information into the right GSP page. In the GSP over there, if it's normal, you will just provide simple information. For instance, here like state dot the state name, state dot the abbreviation. And if it's not the unknown, we just provide here with this information that the text that we saw over there earlier, you didn't enter a state. So here you don't have to, because it's empty, you're not going to show anything. You're not going to use any of the GSP tags here. So you just hard-coded with this error message. So please have the time to review the old, to use this. I want you to practice the MVC and the beans, and with one sharing type, which is the request scope. And also I want also to learn how to utilize an existing code instead of reinventing the wheel. So use the same thing, the same structure. We have these are the first 3, and you have also show balance here, and you need 3 GSP pages. Right, so good luck with that.